up, everybody? This is Tech G back with another video to help you successfully pass the CompTIA A+ 1201 certification exam. So let's get into it. If you're gearing up for the CompTIA A+ 1201 exam, then you probably realize by now that printers are a big deal. Now, I know they sound boring, but here's the truth. In almost every office, school, and even some homes, printers, especially multifunction devices, are still mission critical. And as an IT tech, people will expect you to know how to get them working fast. So in this video, we're going to talk about everything you need to know to confidently deploy and configure a multifunction printer. We're talking about unboxing, setup, drivers, connectivity, printer settings, network scanning, security, and all the real world stuff you'll be tested on in your A+ exam. So let's go. All right, so before you even plug in a printer, take a breath and assess the situation. So when it comes to unboxing, here are the things that you want to do. You want to inspect for damage. So check the box and the printer itself. You want to remove packaging tape. You want to remove the tape that's inside and out, especially around the trays and the ADF or the automatic document feeder. You want to look for included items such as your cables, your driver CDs, toner, ink cartridges, and setup guides. You want to make sure none of that stuff is missing. And then you want to shake the toner if required, because some laser printers do recommend this to distribute toner evenly. Also, you want to choose the right setup location when it comes to things like ventilation, because laser printers, they can get hot and release ozone. You also want to make sure these devices are accessible, so make sure users can reach the trays, scanner lids, and output bins. You want to make sure they have network access, especially if they're near an Ethernet drop. And you want to make sure that they have power, so you want to make sure they're plugged into a surge protected outlet. Now, as a tip, if this is a shared printer, do not bury it in a closet. Make it easy to reach, but not in the way of foot traffic. All right, next, let's talk about installing the right drivers. So let's get one thing straight. Windows will try to install a basic driver on its own, but for full functionality like scanning, duplexing, or advanced tray settings, you're going to need the manufacturer's drivers. And so where do you get the drivers? Well, the manufacturer's website is the safest bet, so always grab the latest version. You want to match the driver to your operating system in architecture, and you want to avoid random third-party driver sites because they're often sketchy or they're out of date. Now, sometimes you're going to be asked which driver type to install, and there were two common ones that you need to know. The first one is called PCL, or Printer Control Language, and this was developed by HP, and it's faster and great for general purpose printing. And then you also have what's called PostScript, and this was created by Adobe, and this is better for graphic design or desktop publishing since it handles complex images better. Now, unless you're printing high-end PDFs or publishing documents, then PCL is usually fine for most people. All right, next you want to update the firmware. So firmware, this is the software that lives inside of the printer. And why do you update the firmware? Well, it can fix bugs, it can patch security vulnerabilities, and it can add features or improve compatibility. So check the manufacturer's site and follow the update instructions carefully, because some updates require the printer to be on the network and idle. And also never cut the power during a firmware update because it could brick the printer. All right, so the next thing you want to do is connect the device. So multifunction printers, they give you a few ways to connect. You have USB, and this is good for single use. It's easy to set up. You just plug it in and let it do its thing. You have Ethernet. This is ideal for shared environments because it connects to the network switch or router. And then there's Wi-Fi, and this is great for flexible placement, but it may suffer from weak signals or interference. Now, here are some tips for each connectivity type. When it comes to USB, you want to use USB 2.0 or 3.0 ports if possible, and avoid any hubs if possible as well. When it comes to Ethernet, you want to set a static IP or a DHCP reservation to make it easier to manage later. And when it comes to Wi-Fi, you want to use a WPS for a quick setup, or you can enter the SSID and password manually. And you also want to make sure the signal is strong and secure, so use WPA2 or WPA3 encryption. All right, so if you're in an office setting, then chances are your printer will be shared. So how you go about sharing these things are you can go onto Windows and go to the printer settings and sharing tab, and then give it a simple, clear name like HR Laser 01 or something like that. Then you also have the option of having print servers, and these are used in medium to large networks to manage multiple printers. They can handle print queues, permissions, and logging. And it could be a Windows server with print management or a standalone appliance. Now, in smaller offices, one computer can act as the print server, but keep in mind, if that PC goes offline, then the printer will become unreachable. All right, so let's talk about the stuff that users will actually care about when they start printing. Here are some of the common print settings. So the first one is duplex, and this can allow for you to print on both sides of a piece of paper. You got orientation. We're talking about portrait versus landscape printing. You got tray settings where you can assign specific paper types like letterhead and tray one, and plain paper in tray two. And also print quality, where you have draft, where this is faster and it uses less ink. And you have best, but this is slower, but it offers the best printout. And these can be set as defaults in the printer driver, or they can be overridden in each print job. And we also do not want to forget about security. So here's where most newbies slip up. Modern printers are network devices, and that means they are also security risks. So when it comes to the security essentials, you want to have user authentication, where this can require logins to release print jobs. You can set this up in Active Directory or with built-in accounts. You have badging systems where users tap in ID badge numbers to authenticate and release jobs securely. You got secure printing, where users send the job, but it doesn't print until they arrive and authenticate. You also have audit logs, where this allows you to track who printed what and when. And this is helpful for tracking and investigations. Now, as a bonus tip, you want to disable unused ports like Telnet, FTP, or even web admin pages if they're not needed. Another thing you want to do is enable network scanning features. So multifunction printers aren't just about printing, they can scan as well. So let's break down your options. You have email scanning, where you can scan a document and email it as a PDF or an image. However, this requires SMTP configuration for the outgoing mail server port and login credentials. You have SMB scanning or window share, where you can send the scan directly to a shared folder, but you're going to need the computer's network path, folder permissions, and sometimes a dedicated scan account. And you also have cloud services where you can scan directly to Google Drive, OneDrive, or Dropbox. And this typically requires linking accounts via the printer's web portal or admin interface. Now, that stuff is awesome once it's working, but it can be tricky to set up the first time. Now, when it comes to scanning and copying, they often come in two main flavors. The first is called ADF, or Automatic Document Feeder. And this is basically where you load a stack of paper, you press scan and walk away. And this is great for bulk scanning and copying, but you want to watch out for jams or crooked feeds. Then you have the flatbed scanner, and this is where you lift the lid, place the paper face down. And this is great for books, IDs, or anything that has a non-standard size. However, it is slower, but it is more precise. And also, when it comes to users, you want to make sure they know which one is which and how to use it, and also how to line up the paper correctly so they do not break the equipment. All right, so let's talk about some common printer issues that you're going to come across, because even perfectly configured printers, they can act up sometimes. So here's a quick cheat sheet to fix all this stuff. When it comes to paper jams, you want to open up the right panel, pull out the paper slowly, and clean any rollers if needed. When it comes to ghosting or streaks, this is usually a toner or drum issue on a laser printer, so you want to replace or clean that. If you can't connect to the Wi-Fi, you want to double check the SSID and password, or try a different frequency, because 2.4 gigahertz, this often works better than 5 gigahertz. You can have a driver mismatch. If that's the case, you want to reinstall with the correct operating system version. Now, you could have some scan failures. If that's the case, you want to confirm the email, SMB credentials, and then check your permissions and firewalls. Then also, you want to restart the printer, because this will more than likely clear out any issues that you possibly had. All right, so let's go over a real world scenario. So let's say that you're the new IT tech at a small office, and the boss drops a brand new multifunction printer on your desk and says, "Get this thing up and running for everyone." Well, here's your game plan. First, you're going to unbox it carefully and set it up next to the break room. You want to make it accessible, but not in anyone's way. Do you want to install the full drivers from the manufacturer's site for Windows? Because that's what most offices operate off of. You also want to update the firmware using the USB connection first, and then move it to the network. And then you want to connect it via Ethernet to keep things reliable. You then want to enable print sharing through the office's Windows print server. After you do all of that, you want to configure the tray settings. So once again, you want to set tray 1 for letterhead or tray 2 for plain paper, and then set the default to duplex. You then want to enable user authentication via Active Directory, or turn on the audit logging. You also want to configure SMB scanning, so the scans can go directly to a scans folder on the Office file server. Then you want to train the staff on using the ADF for bulk scanning and the flatbed for ID cards. And then once you do all of that, you're going to be recognized recognized as the office hero, but more importantly, you will have hit every major point on the A plus exam objective as it relates to this topic. All right, so let me go ahead and wrap all this up. So, multifunction printers might not be glamorous, but they are everywhere. And knowing how to set one up from box to network beast, this is a huge part of being a reliable IT tech. So, the next time someone rolls a printer into your office and says, make it work, well, go ahead and smile because you've got the blueprint, because you learn how to unbox and prep like a champ. You learn how to install the right drivers and firmware. You learn how to set up a USB, Ethernet, or Wi-Fi connection. You learn about enabling sharing and print server access. You learn about configuring print settings and scanning features. And you learn how to lock it down with authentication and audit logs. And if you remember all of that for the CompTIA A+ exam, then you're not just passing the test, you're proving that you have real world skills. So with that being said, let's do some check on learning. So our first question is, which of the following is the most appropriate reason to install a manufacturer's driver rather than using a generic driver provided by the operating system? Is it the manufacturer's drivers provide full access to all printer features? Is it the manufacturer's drivers are smaller in size? Is it generic drivers are incompatible with wireless printers? Or is it the operating system drivers require an internet connection? And the correct answer is the manufacturer's drivers provide full access to all printer features. So while the operating system may install a generic driver to get basic print functionality working, the manufacturer's driver ensures full access to features like duplex printing, advanced trace settings, scanning, and secure printing. So always use the manufacturer's official driver when possible. Next question. A user wants to scan documents directly from a multifunction printer to a network folder on their Windows file server. Which scan service should be configured? Is it SMTP, SMB, PostScript, or PCL? And the correct answer is going to be SMB, or server message block. And this allows printers to scan documents directly to a shared folder on a network Windows computer or file server. SMTP, this is used for email scanning, and PostScript, PCL, these are printer language formats, not scanning protocols. And our final question is, a company wants to enhance security by ensuring that print jobs do not release until the user is physically present at the printer to verify their identity. Which feature should be implemented? Would this be duplex printing, orientation locking, secure printing with user authentication, or audit logging? And the correct answer is going to be secured printing with user authentication. So secured printing holds the print job in queue until the user authenticates at the printer, typically using a username and password or a badge. This prevents sensitive documents from sitting uncollected and visible on the output tray. Audit logging tracks activity, but does not delay print release.